everybody, and welcome to another interview with the Andromeda Guys channel on Justin TV. We're working to raise money for raise pledges for the Kickstarter that we got going on right now, which is at tgakick.com. If you haven't already been over there and given your life savings, then apparently you're not a fan. No, my name is Chris Pope, and I'm joined today with a very, very talented person, a good friend of mine, and I'm super excited to have him on, John Patrick Lowrie. John, how's it going?
I'm doing just fine. Still vertical and above ground. Can't complain.
It's always a plus, right?
That's right. That's right.
Or I should say usually a plus. Really cool. Really cool. Really
I'm going
glad.
to wander over here.
What's that?
So that
Oh.
I'm going to wander over.
Yeah.
All right.
Got your closing your window.
Yeah, the garbage truck is being persistently annoying, so I thought, what the heck? We'll just get rid of him.
Destroyer of live podcasts, the garbage man.
That's right.
Very cool, man. Really excited to have you on, and I am very thankful for you taking the time. I know you guys are busy. You and Ellen both are always busy taking care of business. There we go.
It's been fun for us to be involved in this. I think it's kind of an interesting and exciting idea to have a new game, or a return to a popular game that's actually funded by fans. I think that it's an interesting new thing and very exciting. I hope it works out.
Yeah, we just literally hit $400,000 on the Kickstarter just a second ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yep. So really cool stuff, and the fans have all been really supportive. We've had a lot of fun today. Great interview with Ken Williams, and I would like to go ahead and remind everybody, if you missed the Ken Williams interview, if you go to bit.ly/Ken Williams, all lowercase, you can find the interview there. So for you guys who are wondering about the audio, sometimes Justin TV has issues with the audio recording through Skype, and so we have to throw the audio out there separately. So anyway, thought I would tell you guys that. By the way, commentary.guysfromandromeda.com is where the other audio is at as well. So, John, tell me, how in the world did you manage to fall into the world of voice acting?
Long story. I actually, when I was working at Indiana University on my master's degree and my doctorate, I started doing a little DJ work at the local NPR station, and they asked me to do some radio commercials for other NPR stations, and that was really the first voice work that I ever did. When Ellen and I moved out to Seattle, Ellen McLean, my wife, the voice of GLaDOS on Portal and all that kind of stuff, for those who don't know, when we moved out to Seattle, I got an agent and started doing. Of course, this was back in '89, '90. So it was really before computer games had really come into their own. There were a few out there, but there wasn't really any real work for voice actors in computer games at that point. But I got an agent and was doing, the various kinds of things that you do: radio commercials, voiceovers for TV commercials, occasionally a TV show or a movie or something like that. And then I think it was in '96 I got my first audition for a computer game, which I believe was Betrayal at Antara, or it might have been Spy Fox Breakfast Cereal, but one of those two. And of course, at that time, this was really kind of before the internet had figured itself out, and everybody had to go down to a recording studio to audition. And you saw all your friends there. Everybody who was in the voiceover biz would be at all these auditions, and you'd wait around for a while in line, and everybody would go in and record stuff. And it would all be recorded on a reel-to-reel tape, which they would then mail to whoever wanted to listen to it. And that would take, a week or so. And then they would listen to it and figure out, you wouldn't hear for like a couple of weeks. And of course, nowadays, I get an email from my agent. I record it at home. I email the recording back to him. He puts it up on his website, and they can do that all in like 24 hours sometimes. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool, man. You Yeah, you mentioned Betrayal of Bentara. That was a Sierra game, which
That's
is
right. That's right. Sierra Online,
yeah.
absolutely. And that was when they were up here in Seattle, and they had an office over in Bellevue, just north of I-90, and it was very interesting because it was just just at the beginning of all this stuff, and everybody was particularly I mean I think the games were pretty good, but they really hadn't figured out how to use actors yet.
Hmm.
They didn't have any experience interacting with them or anything like that, and so it was fun kind of helping them figure that out as they went along.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. You told me a funny story about all of that, about them directing you, and I'd love
Oh
it if
yeah.
you tell everybody about it. It's
Oh
definitely one of
well,
my favorites.
the Betrayal at Antara game was, I mean, it seemed kind of medieval, and I was thinking, okay, well, this is probably like someplace in England or something like that when I was auditioning for it, because they send a little artwork with the audition,
Hmm.
and so I said, well, okay, I'll just do a little Sean Connery thing on this one character, and when I got out there, they said, yeah, they hired me obviously, and they said, yeah, we love that Sean Connery thing you did, that Welsh accent. And of course, Sean Connery is Scottish, so that was one one thing. But then we got to one point in the game. Of course, this was early on in the structure of the game, and they didn't know how to use actors. And there was one point in the game where, I mean, I played the dad, I played this father, and my son was gonna say was the story branched at this point, and he was either going to go down the street and be right back, or he was going to go through this kind of gate to another dimension, and I was never going to see him again. And so they gave me this line, "Goodbye, son." And they said, so, could you say it so that it would work in either situation? Either he's going to come right back or you're never going to see him again. And it's like, really? How do you? So I said, sure, goodbye, son. And they said, yeah, that's it. That's it. Good, good.
That's
Great.
great.
I'm glad that it worked. But games have come a long way since then. But it's like this was the first time in history, really, where people were using actors to tell a story that they didn't know exactly how the story was going to go. That the player was going to determine how the story unfolded. And so, it really took a lot of doing to figure out how that all was going to work.
Hmm. Oh, that's cool. I mean, they're one of the very first to be in the industry doing voice acting in video games. That's really
Yeah,
cool. Really great
yeah.
stuff, man. The other I remember we were at this video game SiegeCon that was in 2011 together, and I remember I was over there talking to somebody at one of the other booths, and all of a sudden I hear this blood curdling scream like somebody is literally they've been set on fire and ran over by a truck, and I looked over and there you were demonstrating how to scream death scream. So one of the things that obviously you've had to deal with as a video game voice actor is the death sequences and stuff like that. And
Oh,
can you
yeah.
tell us a little bit about how get you don't have to necessarily demonstrate it because I'm sure my eardrums would probably explode, but how you prepare for that and come up with all these creative ways. I mean, you told me you had some really weird death scenes you had to act out before in games.
Well, I mean, of course, one of the most challenging ones was when I was doing the Suffering and the Suffering 2. And I forget which game. On one of those, I played like 13 different characters.
Uh-huh.
And, by the time you get into the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th character, trying to come up with a unique voice, a unique accent, a unique dialect to differentiate this character from all the other characters you've done. And, pitch your voice different, pitch it up here, pitch it down here, all these kind of things, speed it up, or slow it down, and give accents, well, we'll do a Southern accent, we'll do a kind of a North Carolina accent, or we'll do a New York accent, or we'll do a British accent, so just anything you can do to come up with. And this one guy was the executioner, and he was so into being the executioner that he had to sample each way of executing people, and he finally gassed himself too much and he actually died. And so when you meet him, he's just this glob of gas. And we're trying to figure out how do you make. And I finally, we were trying all kinds of things, and I finally just kept my teeth together and just and put no voice to it at all, and he just sounded like this. And so we came up with the voice of that guy. But then, of course, the 13 characters, now they're all in the can. And then at the end of the day, and they always do this, which is nice, they save the death cries for the end of the session because they're going to wear out your voice as the most. And so they want to get all the other stuff down first. So now I have to go back and scream as all of these different people. And it's like, how do you scream with a British accent? I mean, I don't know. I say, I mean, it's just, so it can be very challenging. Of course, and the people who are asking you to do this start laughing too because they realize how ridiculous it is. But I think that the main thing that I tell acting students is that these guys really take their games very seriously, and they want them to be realistic, and they want them to be very moving, and just like they want the same level of acting as you get in any feature film. And so I just tell people to remember to commit to that if you're being eaten by a space spider, you need to really commit to being eaten by a space spider. And there's this one I played what was it, Kinsler, this horrible kind of rapist dude in Halo ODST that gets torn limb from limb by an angry mob, and and I thought, okay, this guy's. And so how do you do that? I mean, that's all they told me was, okay, that's what's happening here is he's getting torn limb from limb. He arrives on a train and the mob is there and they attack him and they eventually tear him to pieces. And so I went and I basically wrote a little story in my head, so like, the train door opens, I think I'm going to work, and all of a sudden there's this angry mob here. They pour into the train car. They pull me out of the train onto the platform. They start yanking at me, and eventually they start pulling my arms and legs so hard that, they're pulling out of their sockets, and eventually they just rip me apart. And so to go through all of those stages of, indignation and shock and surprise to fear to terror to pain to agony to death is, I mean, it makes the scream a lot more than a scream. It tells a whole story. Mm-hmm. So.
That's great. Yeah, and you mentioned Halo 3 ODST. You were also in Halo Reach. You were Sword Control, weren't you?
Right.
Very cool.
And I don't believe that Sword Control ever died. He just kind of gave orders.
Yeah. So. It's it's kind of crazy. I was playing with a friend the other day, and I was like, there's John. Yeah. Because it was actually the first time I had played Halo Reach, so I wasn't sure what Sword Control was. But that was cool.
Yeah, no, a friend of mine was playing Half-Life 2 one time, and of course I'm all the citizens on Half-Life 2.
Oh yeah.
And literally, one time, he heard my voice and he turned around to look to see if I just walked in the room, and he got shot by somebody. And he went, "Damn you, John Lowrie!"
Right. That's great. Oh, that's cool, man. So you ended up. You started out doing a lot of things. Once you were in a band years and years ago that was pretty successful, weren't you? You played the banjo in the band, or what did you play?
No, I was acoustic guitar.
Acoustic guitar, okay. And then you played the band. I keep thinking banjo because you and Ellen do that the act together, but
right. I took up the banjo later when I got a gig that needed the banjo. But yeah, no, my band, the Keith Lowrie Duet, and we put out an album, got a real nice review in Downbeat magazine, and we opened for people that were much more famous than we were, and stuff like that. But for a couple of guys playing acoustic guitar, instrumental music, kind of world music, cross between Appalachian music and Indian classical music and Balinese gamelan and stuff like that. I mean, we really had a real good run, and I think people really enjoyed us.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really good. And then you ended up getting into acting. And you've been successful at. I've noticed this. You've been successful at everything you've done. You were successful at the band thing. You then moved into acting and became a successful actor. You've also written a book that has been very successful as well.
I wrote a science fiction novel, Dancing with Eternity, that was released last September, and it won the Forward First Award for debut fiction. Came in number 8, I believe, on the Tor.com Reader's Choice Awards. So, it really has had some success and some critical acclaim, and that's very gratifying for me. And continues to do pretty well.
Yeah, you really are. You've done great with all this stuff, and you're currently the thing you're most well known for in the acting world is your role as Sniper on Team Fortress 2, which is
Uh-huh.
a very loved character. If you guys, you don't have to play Team Fortress 2 to love the Sniper. Just go to YouTube and check out the Sniper trailer. It's just great. I
Yeah,
mean,
or the collection of taunts. I mean, the Sniper is very good at insulting people, and people have actually collected all of those and put those on YouTube too.
yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a great stuff, man. Can you give us any Sniper lines?
uh, let's Mate, the bullets come out of the skinny end, mate. This is so easy. I think I'm actually getting worse.
Great,
He's
man.
just very, he's a professional, and he expects his opponents to have a certain standard of accomplishment, and when they don't, he gets upset. I think understandably so.
Yes, and it's
it shouldn't be too easy to kill you. It should be a challenge, or he gets bored.
Exactly. And he hurls jars of pee at people, which I
Well,
think
of course,
is
being a
hilarious.
sniper, it means that he has to stay in position for a long time and stay alert, which means he drinks a lot of coffee, and the coffee's got to go somewhere, and it turns out to make an excellent weapon. If you pee in a jar and then throw the jar at people, that's jarate. It's a completely new style of martial art, and he invented it, which I'm very proud of him for.
Yeah, that's great. It's always fun seeing you at conventions and people keep walking up to you saying "Jarate," or they're
Well,
like,
or
"Will you say it?"
they bring me little jars
Oh
of apple
yeah.
juice and have me autograph them, which I love. I think it's hilarious.
Yes, yes, that's hilarious stuff
At
too.
least they always say it's apple juice. I hope it's apple juice.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
jars are all closed, so I can't tell one way or the other.
Don't see you sampling any of it to test it out.
No, no. I don't think I'd do that.
No, that's great though. Fans get really excited about that stuff, and
Oh
it's
yeah, they really have a
hilarious.
lot of time. I mean, Ellen and I have just had a gas at all the fan cons we've been at because, I mean, if there is a more friendlier, nicer group of people, I have never run into them. I mean, they're just there to have a good time, and it always amazes me that we're at a hotel with a whole bunch of young people from maybe 14, 15 sometimes with their parents, on up to, older folks, but most people in their 20s and, thousands of them sometimes at these events. And I have not heard of a single incident of anyone being hassled or harassed or anything. Everybody's just there to have fun. It's just really wonderful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, they usually they do usually go really well. The geek
Mhm.
community as a whole are very appreciative of getting to meet everybody, and so yeah,
Uh,
it's usually works out well. Actually, I just
yeah,
paused the
and
video,
even,
guys. There's
I
the
mean,
jars.
even when some people have had to. I mean, I remember this one poor woman who was pregnant who had been waiting in line for like 3 hours to get her autographs, and she was still patient and nice. You could tell that she was just beat and couldn't wait to get off of her feet. But even so, she was very nice. So I'm just very impressed with the community.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, no doubt. They uh, just really enjoy talking to you guys. Actually, that's I need a team of people to get the fans off of you sometimes. You guys, yeah,
It's wonderful. It's wonderful that everyone has so much fun with both GLaDOS and the Sniper
yeah,
and all the characters that we do.
yep. And so I'm really excited to see with Space Venture. The two guys from Andromeda plan on having you do some characters that I think everybody's gonna absolutely love as well. Scott and Mark have really just done a fantastic job of coming up with really creative stuff already. They've debuted a couple characters and things like that already, and they're working on more as you can imagine, trying to pump out as much as they can and trying to raise money for the Kickstarter and all of
Well, and
that.
I was very impressed with the earlier version of the game, and just the humor and the sense of the absurd and stuff like that in amongst the adventure. I really think that makes the game much more engaging, and I think that's why it's so memorable. And kids, fans want to be a part of bringing it back because you write fun characters and characters that are in absurd situations and I think that people really identify because so much of life is absurd and so much of life is you're winging it the best you can and this what's the one guy in the original game who was like a janitor or something like
Yeah,
that who
Roger
became one of
Wilco.
the
Yeah.
right Roger Wilco, right, exactly. And, but that kind of thing where this guy who's not particularly trained for anything or anything like that, he just finds himself stuck in this intergalactic war and has to figure out what to do. That makes it fun. I mean, when we can laugh at it as we are shooting aliens, it's so much better. And I think the reason that the sniper is so popular and characters like GLaDOS that my wife plays are so popular is that there's this sense of humor as well as the sense of gamesmanship and danger and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt, man, for sure. And you guys doing stuff with Valve, how is that a lot of fun to be
Oh,
dealing with
oh,
Valve?
yeah. I mean, really, I can't think of a single. I mean, some of the games that I've done that I'm not credited on, where I just say things like, enemy ahead, load up, more ammo, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just kind of workaday stuff. But any of the stuff with Valve or Bungie or Monolith, it has real characters in real life, and you're really trying to bring your acting chops to bear. That's always fun, and there have been times when I've actually scared people in the booth with the way that I delivered a line, and that's always great. When you actually see that visceral reaction, they kind of jump back and say, "Oh my God," and but that's what you want the character to be, is scary, and so
Yeah.
but also coming up with funny lines, and I mean I've just was in a session a few weeks ago for Dota 2. Defense of the Ancients 2. I assume everybody knows what that is. And one of the characters, Storm Spirit, they wanted to. I guess all the characters may be kind of sports announcers for one part of the game, and they wanted me to improv a whole bunch of kind of sports announcery stuff that Storm Spirit might say. And we were just, falling over. We were having such a good time. People were really laughing. So it was great fun.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's because one thing about voice acting in video games that's different than a lot of the voice actors in cartoons I've always noticed is that you guys in video game voice acting, you really don't get to interact with other people other than the guys in the booth. Like you don't really get to communicate with other actors most of the time, do you?
Right. It's just, I mean, I've done it once on a pilot project that Monolith was putting together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it went anywhere, but they brought two actors in. And the other time I was in the booth with someone else was with my wife when Valve brought us both in to do the bickering married couple at the end of Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
On the houseboat. But really, it's studio time is so expensive that and actors are relatively expensive too. That when you have an actor in the booth, you want him talking. You don't want him listening to another actor. But I think that really the one experience that I have the other way is on these Sherlock Holmes radio shows that I do, where we do bring the whole cast in and do it as a play and record it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that games are getting to the point where they are going to want to do some of that. This pilot project that Monolith had me in with David Scully on was kind of a buddy thing. These two guys knew each other, had a history with each other. They didn't like each other, but they kind of liked each other, and there's all this kind of back and forth stuff, and they really wanted to establish that relationship. And I think that when you have two actors in the booth improvising off of each other, you can tell. I mean, it's just more spontaneous.
Yeah.
It has more life, but it is more expensive. But I think that we're getting to the point where games are making so much money that they have that kind of budget. So we may see more of that coming along.
Yeah, definitely. No, I see what you mean. I was talking to Robert Clotworthy the other day. He's going to be one of the voice actors here for us as well, and he's the voice of Jim Raynor from StarCraft. And Blizzard brings him in always. It's like once every 6 months to do something with a couple of the other actors in the booth all together. But other than that, most of his stuff too is the same way. It's not with somebody. It's usually separate, which is just interesting. It's interesting because you imagine it differently, I guess.
Right, and well, of course, this is the fun thing. You can tell when you meet fans that even though they know, I mean, they're not deluded, but they kind of feel like we get to live in the worlds that they move around in, electronically. And I can understand why that is. I mean, because they're actually interacting with us, and sometimes they're trying to either kill us or keep from being killed by us and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think the difference between meeting someone that you've seen in a movie, where you're just sitting in a dark room watching this person act on the screen, and actually spending sometimes hundreds of hours with these characters, interacting with them, trying to get things to happen, like in a game like Team Fortress 2, where you're actually interacting and trying to get other characters to cooperate with you to get projects done and stuff like that. And while sometimes they're turning around and shooting you, it's a whole new level of feeling like you actually have interacted with us for hours and hours and hours in your own home. And so it's we were just over at the Apple store the other day looking at maybe buying a new computer, and we were talking, and it happened to come up that I introduced Ellen as the voice of GLaDOS, and the guy just lost it. It's just a total geek moment. He didn't know what to say. He got tongue tied, and it's just it's just very, very sweet. And but I can see that interacting with video game characters is completely different than just going to a movie and watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You definitely were right. And again, I've witnessed this with you guys many times. It's amazing. It really is. But what's so cool about the whole thing is just the fact that when you are willing to sit down and spend some time with the fans and talk to them like you guys are, it means the absolute world to them. They go crazy. I mean, they'll tell you their life story, and that's my favorite part of being around all of it, is just watching all that happen and how excited people get to talk to you guys. And even though it's like they know in the back of their head you're not the character, it's just the fact that you played such a huge role in making the character come to life, and that's just what really gets me excited about it.
Yeah, well, and it's true. I mean, and they really do think of us as the character, or just the person who has done the work that they enjoy so much, and often Ellen and I find that we can Sorry, I don't know what's going on here.
Uh-oh.
A second, okay. I don't know what that was. But we find that we can help them because often they're interested in animation or voice acting themselves or game design. And particularly when we were at SiegeCon, there were so many students there who really were actively pursuing the career, and we could help them, just give them a real idea of what the industry is like and stuff like that. But even if they're just fans that just like playing the games, I think it's important to them that we acknowledge them and that we show them that they're as important to us as we are to them.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's great. I mean, and again, that's voice actors as a whole are generally like that. But again, you two especially, I can say, spend so much time talking with the fans and interacting with the fans. I think that's just great, man.
Well, we kind of feel like we're the mom and dad of the fan family. Because we're actually married to each other, and I think that people think that that's hilarious, that the sniper is married to GLaDOS, because we've gotten so much fan art of, the sniper and GLaDOS having breakfast together and, weird stuff like that.
Right.
And so we really do feel like we're kind of the mom and dad of the fan world.
Oh, that's really cool. I think, the community has really enjoyed the two of you guys interacting so much and doing so many interviews and being willing to talk to everybody. And then also, one thing that Ellen's always really big about is pushing marriage and all of that. Like, she's die hard, man. I don't know what you did to that woman. You got her under a spell, though, man.
Well,
She's
the sniper has his, I think it's the Jarate really that, won her.
That's it.
But I think that, the easy thing to do is to give marriage a bad rap and be all cynical about it and say it's all fights and stuff like that. And I think that, particularly when two people who are both actors who have managed to make a living together and, actually pay the bills for these many years as actors, being, married to each other, I think it's important for us to give marriage a good rap because, you're in a very happy marriage. There are lots of very happy marriages out there. And I think that, particularly in the later half of the 20th century, we were looking at marriage very, very, very hard and really dealing with domestic abuse and all the kind of the dark side of married life. Mm-hmm. And particularly for Ellen and I, we both kind of grew up in very unstable marriages, and our parental stuff was kind of classic mid 20th century stuff with all this stuff going on, and for us to come out of that kind of background and have a very, very, very happy and very stable marriage over 2.5 decades now. Yeah. I think it's important for people to know about it because I think, people work best as teams. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I like about games is that it tends to bring people together as teams. And I think that, when we get together as couples, we just are more efficient. We can do all kinds of things that just one person alone is much more stressed trying to pull off. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. No, I think it makes a lot of sense, man. I hope that that people out there that a lot of the gamers that do join hand in marriage, do play and don't kill each other in these games. They should play as co-op, not deathmatch.
It's been fun for us. We've been to in the last year we've been to 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 cons maybe. Mm-hmm. And at like 4 of those cons at least, we met at least one couple on their honeymoon going to a game con as their honeymoon. This is something that they wanted to do. They met through gaming, mm-hmm. and for their honeymoon they wanted to go to a game con. And at a couple of cons we saw people propose to each other. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, that gaming really is more and more about community, and it just warms the cockles of my heart to know that something's out there that's bringing people together to goof around and, shoot hideous aliens on a computer screen.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's funny we're mentioning the whole deathmatch thing. Musically inspired. Uh-huh. Brandon Bloom in our chat room actually said you could play team deathmatch. There you go, against the kids. That's how it feels at my house sometimes. That's for dang sure. Here's another question for you. This is from Mr. Ken Allen in our chat room, who actually was an employee at Sierra. He is asking, what was your favorite character to voice? Or favorite voice, I guess you've done.
Well, of course, Sniper has a very dear place in my heart, just because there's a great deal of me in the Sniper. Mm-hmm. There was a guy in Project Origin. What was that? That was the subtitle. It was Fear, F-E-A-R, Fear 2 Project Origin. Mm-hmm. And I'm blocking his name right now. What was it? I have to IMDb it just a second. But he, the Project Origin was about, they were, it's kind of these mercenaries going into a government facility that have been doing all kinds of wild and weapon research kind of thing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they had developed this kind of gas that made people hallucinate and the hallucinations kind of come to life. And so the character that I played, in just a second,
This is Fear 2 you're talking about?
yeah, let's see, Fear 2, Harold Keegan. Harold Keegan was the guy. And he's, this very kind of rough and tumble ex-Marine, go in there, get the job done, let's go. And then he falls in love with this hallucination, this woman hallucination, and he gets completely, just, totally unmanned. He just completely falls apart. And that was great to as an actor, to be able to go from this, really tough guy who's all about getting the job done, getting in there, facing a hail of bullets, going, total courage, professionalism, to just totally fall head over heels in love with this person that he can never have because she's a hallucination. Was really kind of a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So those two, and then of course Kinsler in ODST. I mean, actually getting to be this horrible rapist dude who gets ripped limb from limb by an angry mob. That was a lot of fun too.
That was a lot of fun.
I'll tell you, I love playing Half-Life 2 because I'm the citizens, and I'm always glad to see me. I'm always going to, as the player, I come in and they go, "Oh, wow, you're here, great, this will be fine." And Ellen is the Overwatch, and she's always, trying to get me caught. She's like, "Yes, we have a citizen, the weird, he's over here, he's put him in prison." And so, to have a game where I'm always glad to see me, and my wife is always trying to get me arrested, is just gangs of fun.
Oh, that's great. Well, here is a question from Irish Smile in our chat room. What existing character that you have not voiced do you wish you could?
Oh boy, let's see. Well, this is the problem, is that I am not really a person who goes out and buys a whole lot of video games, except like there aren't any more Myst games, and I play Civilization, but those are really the only games that I've ever played that I haven't been in. So,
well, what about characters that you didn't get the voice from games that you have been in? How's that?
Oh, well, I think, when I think about Team Fortress 2, I think of all the other poor characters that didn't get my voice. That's so sad. It's hard for me to think about. But although I'll tell you, I mean, I would have loved to voice the Heavy in Team Fortress 2, but my very good friend Gary Schwartz did a hilarious job. And of course, the Heavy is this huge, Germanic guy who's got big muscles and uses a huge weapon. And Gary Schwartz is this little bald guy who's just the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. And my very good friend Dennis Bateman voiced the Spy. And so, I mean, really, most of the games up here, and of course, in Seattle, the acting community is small enough that we tend to all know each other. And so if we don't get to voice something, we know that one of our pals did. So it's very hard to be bitter about any job that we didn't get. Although, I mean, I would have loved to voice the character that Jen Taylor voiced in Halo, because, she's a total
Cortana.
Superstar.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know that they would have ever cast me to do that. But
yeah, you would have made an interesting Cortana, John.
Yeah.
I'd have to say. You need to talk to Jen. She needs to start coming to some of the conventions with her. I can't seem to talk her into going.
I know she's a very shy person.
Yeah.
She tends to. I mean, she doesn't have a web presence. Doesn't want a web presence.
Yeah.
She tends to really be very retiring.
Yeah.
She's a very nice person, though.
Yeah. She's real sweet. But yeah, she's not. It's interesting though. She just wants to voice her characters and move on. But it'd be cool to have her at one of these things and
I think she'd have a good time.
I do
but,
too.
It's like talking people into going to a baseball game that don't think they'll like baseball. It's like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Let's see. Here's another question. And guys, I'm trying to get to your questions. I hope I know I probably missed some. If I miss them, you can always ask them again. It says, John, I know you did some voice work for the sniper in the hilarious Meet the Team Fortress 2 shorts, but beyond that, are you interested in voicing any full-featured animated movies? That's an interesting question.
Oh yeah, no, I certainly would take that gig. I mean, I think that would be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I live in Seattle, and almost all animation features are done somewhere else, either in LA. A lot of them are done in Texas. A lot of them are done in Atlanta. But nobody's doing animation up here that I know of. There are a lot of game manufacturers up here, but no animated feature films. But I'd love to do that work. I think it'd be a total gas.
Yeah, sure enough. And one of the things I want to kind of give props to is I know you've been a huge advocate for the Actors Guild and making sure the actor, voting for that all went through, didn't it? The Guild, the Actors Guild?
Yeah. The AFTRA and SAG, the two main media actors unions, have merged into one union, which is the smartest thing they ever did, and the dumbest thing is that it took them so long to do it. But that aside, yeah, I think that we can move forward. I think that there's a lot of discussion going on in the country right now about the how pertinent unions are anymore. A lot of when we talk about when unions started, working conditions, there were things going on like, if you worked at a coal mine, you lived in a town built by the company and you had to shop at the company store and you were paid in scrip that was only good at the company store. Mm-hmm. And, the difference between that and slavery was, almost semantic. And, the pay scales, ridiculously low and stuff like that. And a lot of these, ills have been addressed. I mean, people have gotten a lot smarter. Management has gotten a lot smarter about, how to keep employees happy and healthy and all that kind of stuff, which is, props to everybody for that. But I think that what I hope that people understand is that in the acting world, we go from gig to gig to gig, and the only way for us to have like a pension plan or a health plan is to do it through a union. And because even with acting gigs, people are paying non-union actors very well, but the one thing that they can't give them is any kind of health plan or pension plan that is affordable. The same kind of health insurance that I get through my union, I wouldn't be able to afford if I was just paying for it on my own. So there's just no way. It's ridiculously expensive. And so I think that that even as unions are trying to redefine themselves and figure out how we are pertinent in the 21st century, for actors I think they're still particularly important just because of the way that we work.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a question, another question for the chat room. Admiral Von Snugglesworth, John, you're always so energetic. What's your secret? Lots of coffee? And Mr. Ken Allen actually says, do you do any voice exercises?
I do not drink coffee. I've drank 2 1/3 cups of coffee in my life, and I can tell you where I had each cup and 1/3 cup. I've always hated coffee. So I don't know. I really enjoy conversation. I really enjoy language, and I really enjoy interacting with other human beings. Mm-hmm. And so people energize me. I think this is why I do a lot of theater, and the reason, and so does Ellen, and the same thing in my band. Performing with a group of live human beings that give you immediate feedback. That in itself is a kind of a conversation mm-hmm. that I really enjoy. And, the only thing that I don't like about doing computer work is that really you're only getting to actually interact with the writers, which is a lot of fun. But this is what makes it so much fun to actually go out to these fan cons, is because I get to converse with people about this stuff and hear their ideas. And a lot of people have a lot of interesting ideas about all this stuff. So, yeah. I don't know, I guess I'm energized by people.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. You definitely... You and Ellen, when I've been at conventions with you, I've sat there and watched you go all day long talking to fans, and it's an exhausting thing.
It's vocally exhausting, yeah, and particularly, she's such a trooper because a lot of times they'll want us to sing, they'll want her to mm-hmm. sing and me play the banjo on "Still Alive" or "Want You Gone," like at the end of the 3rd day of the convention. And, Ellen is such a trooper to go out there and give them something because she doesn't have any voice at all left. And a lot of times she doesn't even want to do it because she's afraid it'll be out on YouTube and this is not really what she sounds like. And I really feel for her because her voice is just trashed about, from 3 days of yelling just to get over the sound of the big rooms that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sure enough.
But we love the fans. They're great people. And I think, and we're very committed to, because we've gotten to do what we loved
Hmm.
for our lives, and we've gotten to have a career in the arts, and we're very committed to passing on anything that we know that can help people, even if it's just, yes, it is possible to do it. Yes, the odds are against you, but it's possible to do it. Get out there and take your swings,
Hmm.
and for whatever it is, if you want to be into computer games, or if you want to be an astronaut, or whatever it is that you want to do, we're very committed to encouraging young people to really go for their dreams. So
Hmm.
that's very meaningful to us, even more than fun. It is fun,
Hmm.
but it's important to us.
Hmm. Max333 in the chat room says, "Do you sometimes feel the need to change the script in these games to adapt it to your vision of a character, or do you stick
Well,
right to the script?"
no, actually, I mean, more the way it works, since particularly in video games, we haven't seen a script.
Hmm.
We haven't seen the story. What we get is our lines, and the writers and people like Vel Van Buren, who kind of direct this, will tell us what's going on at this point in the story, and kind of tell us what their vision of the character is. And there are some times where I'll say, okay, well, what if he was something like this, something like that, and they'll say, yeah, let's try it. So it's definitely interactive, but I don't know that. And there are times where I'll just start improvising, and they leave the mic running. I mean, the great thing about digital recording is you're not wasting tape. You're not spending money on any kind of media. It's all digital, and so they just leave the mic on all the time, and I'll start riffing, and a lot of times they'll just use the stuff that I riff on and take it, and that'll give them ideas and say, oh yeah, try this now this way, and stuff like that. So I would say I know Ellen ran into some things where, and of course with GLaDOS, who was such a big character, that she, with some of the jokes they had her saying, she really had to say, no, I think that's just too mean.
Hmm.
And so they bring it back a little bit. But with the kind of things that I do, um, it's never been I don't think the character would say that kind of a thing. It's always been more of a, oh, what if he did this? And they said, yeah, try it. Let's see what it goes. And so I just try to give them as much material as I can and as much choices as I can, so that they can take it back to the shop and pick out what they want, and maybe use it all, maybe use most of it, but so that they have a lot of stuff to work with.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. I think that's a great answer, man. Let's see. Was there? Hang on. Here it is. Okay, this is another question from the Admiral here. The Admiral, as we are naming the Admiral. Sorry, sorry if this has already been asked, but with regards to the sniper, was it hard to adopt an Australian accent?
Oh, no, I mean, Australian accent is, you have to study it. People at first, if they try it, a lot of times they'll fall into like a Cockney accent, which actually has significant differences. The, when you really get into dialect work, and I don't want to get too pedantic here,
Hmm.
but it's interesting to trace geographically how dialects have traveled from one place to another, because really we're talking about people whose ancestors all started in the British Isles and moved out to other parts of the world. Or we're talking about someone from another country who's learned English from someone.
Hmm.
And it's so you need to get the vowel substitutions, and actually it's interesting because there is variation even in an Australian accent, and I tended to do a kind of a Sydney area Australian accent for the sniper, but
Hmm.
people from Melbourne and Canberra actually talk a little bit differently. The one accent that I have never been able to really get is but I haven't really been called on to do it, so I haven't really studied it that much. But I would love to. Is the New Zealand accent? Kiwis are they so flat and so wide. I mean, it's even flatter and wider than a South African accent, which is about the flattest and widest I've ever done.
Wow. Yeah, I was about to say I've always heard the South African Accent was tough.
Yeah, I mean, instead of saying medicine, they say medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Medicine. It's all flat. It's all flat and wide, and but it's you really need to study it to get it right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool, man. Let's see. There was another question. Oh yeah, this is another one from Mr. Canallen. Have you ever had any Shatner moments where the director was not a very good director? We'll go ahead and exclude the Sierra directors that you had to deal with at Betrayal of Antara.
Oh yeah, no, and really, I mean, nowadays in computer games, they pretty much know their stuff. But I'll tell you, when you get into like doing commercials, radio commercials and stuff like that, I spend my whole time redirecting myself to, I mean, they'll say something to me and I will go in my head and say, okay, now what would I say if I wanted this kind of result to an actor, and then say it to myself, because they just have no idea. No, I completely understand that Bill Shatner recording. I mean, it really gets that way sometimes. And it's hilarious. You can't, I mean, I can't afford, Bill Shatner is Bill Shatner. He's famous, so he can do anything he wants. But I can't really afford to go off on anybody. But I just quietly redirect myself.
Yeah, that's good though. No, you definitely want to take the smart way out there. No,
that's right.
That's cool. I wouldn't expect you to name any names anyway, so.
Oh, well, no, and of course, and none of the fans would know any of these folks anyway, even if I remembered their names. I mean, the thing about doing commercials is that you rarely work with the same person twice. I mean, if you're doing a commercial for the same company, you might work with somebody over and over again, but those people aren't the problem. They know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But I remember, I remember my friend Frank came up to visit, and he was just here in town for a few days, but I had a voiceover gig, and I said, well, come on, see what I do. And we went down there, and it was very nice folks. I think it was for some sort of cancer awareness or something like that. And they, and I went into the booth, and they just wanted me to say something like, all right, or yeah, or something like that. And I did, and they said, thanks. And that was it. And we left, and he was kind of, they pay you this much to do that?
To come in there to just say that one line.
That's right.
Wow. That's great.
But it's really fun. I mean, the kind of personalities you meet on both sides of the microphone are as varied as in any other job. I think that what's fun for me is meeting some of the people who are writing political ads or public service ads, stuff like that. And these people are, very kind of workaday, small personalities. And, it just contrasts to me the huge personalities that actors have. And you forget that actors have huge personalities until you meet normal people who are just regular human beings. It's always fun to me.
Oh, that's cool, man. No, I gotta admit that's actually one of the reasons I started wanting to work with actors. Is some of the most interesting people out there. So many characteristics of or different characters out there. People.
Yeah. Different. Go ahead. You can say it. Different mental illnesses.
Voices. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Different voices. Actually, as we come into the end of the interview here, John, I wanted you to have a chance to kind of plug your book real quick. What can you tell us about your book? Give us a little bit more information about it.
Well, it's set to 2,000 years in the future. It's science fiction. A very nice review called it one of the finest meldings of sociological science fiction and so-called hard science fiction that they've read in the last 50 years, which is very nice to hear. It's very much a commentary about how human beings are now, but it also just has a lot of fun. I mean, it's an adventure story that takes place in a future that I envisioned where we have figured out how to travel from star to star, and we have figured out how to terraform planets, and that's what we've done, is that, we really haven't met any other people, because life is so rare. And what we've had to do is build planets as we go. But we do eventually meet some aliens, and they won't talk to us. They won't even notice us. They don't seem to realize that we exist at all, except that something about what happens to us on their planet kills us by the billions. And so we decide to stay away from that planet forever. But there is a reason that, well, and also in this future, I figured that medicine continues to progress to the point where people don't die at all, ever. So that if I were to come up and shoot you in the head, you'd just go to the hospital and get fixed, and I'd have to pay for it. So murder doesn't become unheard of; it becomes impossible, and a war becomes impossible. You know, there's just no way to kill people, and everyone is connected on this kind of telepathic internet, and that gives us capabilities too. And but really, the book was a study in what human beings would do if we had kind of solved all of our problems. If we really, we weren't crowded on one little planet anymore, we could really go out and, how many hundreds of billions of planets are there in this galaxy? If we're taking terraforming as something that we can do and is economical to do, we have limitless space. And if we don't die anymore, we have limitless time. How would we spend our time? What would that be like? Because it was just, that's kind of my absurdist brain. I kind of think in terms of jokes. And it's like, I think, what upsets us the most? What if that stopped being a problem? Death upsets us the most. Rape upsets us the most. What if people couldn't get raped anymore? What if people couldn't get killed anymore? What if nobody died anymore? What would we do? And so it's really based on a kind of an old Greek myth. I mean, it's more of an Odyssey than anything else. Our hapless hero is stuck in a bar on the backside of the absolute worst neighborhood on a small moon around a major planet, and he's had trouble with basically the IRS, the future version of the IRS, and they've kicked him off the net, and he can't get a job and stuff like that, and so he's just kind of sponging off of people. And this beautiful woman comes into the bar that he's hanging out in and offers him a job and won't tell him what it is, and she's beautiful, but she's also seems to be very, very complex and has all kinds of very deep pain, and he can't figure out what's going on. And so a lot of the book is trying to figure out what she's doing, and then why the heck would she be doing the thing that she's doing. And I think people call it a very emotional book, but also just a good old hard SF adventure. So I hope people read it, and I hope people enjoy it.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I think it was a great book. It's different than your typical science fiction book, and you'll have to read it to find out what I mean by that. But it's a good book, and I think you guys should check it out. The chat room's wanting to know about the audio version. I know you and Ellen had talked about doing an audiobook version. Are you still planning to do that?
We actually are going in Tuesday for the last recording session.
Awesome.
We'll be recording the end of the book, and we are very confident, very optimistic that it will be ready for when we appear at Dragon Con, on the Walk of Fame at Dragon Con on this Labor Day in Atlanta.
Dragon Con Atlanta, come see me, people. Have John
and we will
Ellen
also
there.
Be at San Japan in San Antonio in August. For I don't know if fans are going to be in Texas, but we will be down there. I'm not sure if the audio version of the book will be ready by then, but we're shooting for Labor Day. So
yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, John, thanks so much for taking the time to
absolutely
to come and hang out.
And
with
really,
us.
I really hope that the fans pull it together and back this project. I think that it'd be a great project, and it's just very exciting to me that it would really be owned by the fans, that they put it together and with their own enthusiasm, and I think this is a great idea, and I hope it comes off.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that if we make the 500,000, I heard that GLaDOS was going to chip in $100,000. So
yeah,
it's very
unfortunately, her bank account is so incredibly encrypted that even she can't get into it. So
there you go.
but I'm glad that she's on board.
It's always good to have GLaDOS on board.
I'm always afraid, though, whenever GLaDOS promises you something, what it's actually going to be is like deadly neurotoxin or something like that. So I think that we should always take GLaDOS statements with a grain of.
Yeah, you don't want to ever. Don't ever just trust anything.
It all comes back to the cake, in my word. In my
it all comes back to the cake. That's true. just can't trust it. All right, John. Well, thanks again so much for coming in, and I think the chat room
Absolutely.
have had a blast. I've had a blast, and the people hopefully listening to this in the future has had a blast. And yeah, guys. So thanks, chat room, for stopping by. We appreciate you guys listening in, and hope you had a good time. And keep an eye on tgakick.com and keep spreading the word. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Go
So
team! Go
yes,
team!
yes. So, all right, everybody. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Bye.